Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Skaven and which character is right for you. Yep, that's right. We're back for another Who to Play in Total War Warhammer 3 video. Today, I wanted to talk about my personal favorite race, the Skaven. Skaven are devious little tricksters that will do literally anything to win, but they're complete cowards, which makes for hilarious gameplay. We're going to be rating all 6 of these factions that are from downloadable content and the base game, and just rate them 1 to 6, who's the best, who's the worst, and then who I personally love to play and why. Along with telling you kind of how their campaign functions so you kind of know how it works. So, let's get into this. Number 1, Ikit Claw. From that little intro that you saw there, not much to be unimpressed with from this mad scientist rat. He uses war machines and weapons teams to cause crazy destruction. He starts in the city of Skavenblight, which produces tons and tons of benefits for him throughout the entire game, and it's just a great starting point overall. He has access to a Forbidden Workshop, which I have a video about. I will link it in this video. Go check that one out. Where you can build nukes, they're called Doom Rockets, and upgrade your weapons teams to massive effects. On top of this, he gains a loyalty buff and construction costs negative to engineering buildings, which are really good throughout the entire campaign. He's got a really fun campaign where he starts. There's a lot of Bretonnian factions, and then you can get into the Empire if you want to. Really fun campaign as a mad scientist Ikit. Second most powerful faction is probably Thrott the Unclean. Thrott the Unclean is kind of addicted to Warpstone. He eats a little bit too much sometimes and makes his rats eat a little bit too much, and then makes them go crazy. So Thrott's campaign is really fun because you get a flesh laboratory which you can use to mutate your units, which gives them random effects sometimes, or just special effects like regeneration, frenzy, some sort of stuff like that. And if you upgrade them too much, there's a chance that they just kind of break down because they ate too much Warpstone. Really fun. You start in a really good position right next to Kislev and Norska, so lots of allies slash enemies that you can make. Whatever you want to do there, you can do there. Your construction cost for monster buildings, so like if you want rat ogres or mutant rat ogres, goes down significantly. You're immune to mountain attrition, which is really nice, but mainly we're looking at that flesh laboratory, which is really, really fun. Thrott is a really solid character in himself and a fun legendary lord to play as. Third most powerful isn't most powerful because of their lord or any of that sort of stuff. It's most powerful because it's got really, really interesting faction mechanics. So kind of like the last two, where Ikit had his Warlock laboratory. Hold up, I forget what it's called. Forbidden Workshop, and Thrott has his Flesh laboratory. Clan Eshin, with Deathmaster Snakehitch leading them, has Shadowly Dealings actions. And I will make a video about this soon, telling you how all these things work and what you should do throughout your campaign for best effects, of course. But it's really interesting what you can do with there, because you're playing this really fun game of trying to satisfy all the different clans at once and try not to make huge enemies while invading all of Cathay and causing huge mayhem. There's also probably the most overpowered ability in the game, where you just destroy a faction with a click of a button. It's insane. Night Runners and Gutter Runners become extremely powerful for your entire faction, because you get armor-piercing projectiles for these guys, which is always great. So generally you just have 11 base, and then apparently 3 armor piercing, which isn't that great, but when you get a lot of armor piercing, these units will shred. Only problem with this guy's faction is at the start of your campaign, your recruitment costs for all non-Eshin units are up by 200%. So if you want any weapons teams or just scary beasts, it's kind of expensive to get them. But as you complete your shadowy dealings, those recruitment costs go down, and actually you become really effective in recruiting things. Fourth most powerful, I would like to say, is Lord Skrolk. It's a pretty close bet between Lord Skrolk and Queek Headtaker, but I think Skrolk takes the lead. He's a pretty powerful lord using plague magic, and he has the ability to cause plagues on his enemies, and they will do really good. So those plagues spread a whole bunch. You start off in a pretty decent position. There's a couple powerful enemies like Ista and the Cult of Sotek, I think is what they're called, whoever Henuin leads. Really fun campaign. You get to cause a whole bunch of plagues down there. You get to wreck some lizards with some rats, and you get a whole bunch of benefits with Plague Monks, Plague Censer Bearers, Plague Claw Catapults, and Plague Priests, which Plague Claw Catapults are ridiculous. Queek Headtaker is what I'm saying 5th most powerful, but you could argue him as 4th pretty easily. So Queek has a very interesting campaign where he's trying to retake Karak 8 Peaks. He's one of those 3 guys, the other 2 being Belagar and Skarsnik, who need to retake 8 Peaks for lorical reasons and their campaign. So the faction effects are pretty good. You get +2 chieftains. That doesn't really mean a huge thing, except for at the start of the campaign you have chieftains in your armies, which is really nice. You get a negative 25% upkeep to Storm Vermin and Clan Rats. They're not great units. This is why I put Skrolk ahead of Queek Headtaker, because the upkeep on Storm Vermin doesn't really matter. They're relatively cheap, and they're just gonna die because they're not a good unit. However, what is nice about this guy is you can purchase an additional 5 levels of the Menace Blow, which Menace Blows are pretty dang powerful, and your food cost is reduced by 1/3 for those Menace Blows. The Lord effects are pretty insane, and he's a pretty good duelist Lord. He can wreck just about anyone one-on-one that's on foot. Negative 20 leadership to enemy lords and embedded heroes in the local region is really nice. And then you get a free 2 uses of Menace Blow for your army, along with 2 other just melee attack effects. Coming in last place, Tretch Craventail. I don't think there will be anybody who disagrees with this, but if you do, please tell me. Scurry Away gives you a little bit of ward save, which is cool about his faction, but you start in a kind of ouchy place. You start in the Silverback region, so you're right next to Drazuath and Kradin and Krazak and Skarsnik, which is all pretty brutal. But for 3 turns after declaring war, you get +25 ambush success chance, Vanguard deployment for all your units, Menace Blow +1 use to all armies, and enemy reinforcement range +50, or enemy reinforcement time +50, which is all really, really good. So that +25% ambush success chance is probably the biggest one. It lets you get ambushes in a lot easier and destroy your enemy armies, which is kind of how the Skaven play, leaning into getting your ambushes in. And if you look down at his Lord effects, you get Devastating Flanker, which is great, and then during ambushes or after retreating, you get a whole bunch of melee attack in. You get the ability Encourage for Storm Vermin units, which is a slight leadership bonus, kind of like a Lord's Aura, and then you get an additional +1 armor and +1 base weapon damage per unit of experience for Clan Rats and Storm Vermin. which again aren't great units, but whatever. So overall, I think that he's alright. You can play as him if you want to. He's got that cool little faction effect of after 3 turns after declaring war, you get those little benefits. So if you just want to always be declaring wars on everyone, you can play as Tretch Craventail. That's basically it for this one, guys. My favorite, like I said I was going to say, is Ikit Claw. It's pretty hard to beat walking around with a whole bunch of rattling guns, doom flayers, and just dropping nukes on everybody. That Forbidden Workshop was really well designed. I love it so much. Great starting position. Nothing I would change about this campaign. So, tell me who your favorite faction is for the Skaven, and if you decide to play as one of these, tell me which one you played and why you were interested in it, and how you liked it overall. Thank you, and have a good day.